lords, my ladies, and everybody else here not sitting on a cushion.
Well, we have a rather curious subject this morning. To study our heritage from the past is not simply a waste of time, because most of that heritage is still with us.
I think it's important to live life with a knowledge of its mystery and of your own mystery. And it gives life a new zest, a new balance, a new harmony to do this.
The human story is much more complicated and much more mysterious than we've been taught. We need to wake up as a human species. We need to become our own leaders. This is in my view, the next step forward.
When people find out what it is that's ticking in them, they get straightened out.
We can win the fight, but we can win a little every day. And every day when we make the smallest victory, there will be a little more of happiness and a little less of pain. Every day, one step forward. Even a small decision will strengthen us for another one tomorrow. And gradually these right decisions will bring us enlightenment and companionship in the spiritual adventure of existence.
All the settings are good. All right. Well, we're here. We're here.
We are here.
We are here.
Indeed.
Welcome to Wayfinder, everybody. JC.
Welcome, everybody.
Jeffrey.
Hello. Hello, hello.
We've got Jeff Sullivan with us. Such a super fucking special visit. I am so stoked to have you here, man. Jeff is a good friend of ours. It's like family, and he's a very, very talented visionary artist, painter, musician, and Jeff came in from New England this week, and then we're going to head out to California together in a couple of days to go to the Optimistic Mansion in Venice Beach with a bunch of fascinating, conscious, elevating folks out in sunny California.
Absolutely.
I assume it's going to be funny and sunny and all that. Mike here. Go fist distance to Mike. Something close to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There it is.
Make love to the mic.
That sounds much
better.
We're
going out to Optimistic.
I'm going to unplug this shit. It's going to make a crinkle.
Do it.
Oh, that wasn't bad.
That really wasn't bad.
Yeah,
with the reverb, it sounds nice, like most guitars.
You know, usually when you pull out, it's a lot more painful than that.
There are not enough people unplugging instruments in songs.
Yeah, there needs to be. Make that a thing. We just unplug instruments. It's
Who's
like
going to do the unplugging today?
So you guys are going out to Venice Beach. Venice Beach. Brendan Beecham, Positive Head Podcast.
Yeah, you guys go check out the Positive Head Podcast if you're not doing that already.
You're presenting art.
Yes.
You've got stuff flown out there.
I have art that was created and shipped. Yes.
Yeah.
It was such a big to-do to get it from New England all the way out there.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I was talking to you, and you were like fucking stressed to the hilt.
It's
just getting it all framed up.
Big production. It's a big production if it was in Connecticut. Never mind halfway across the country.
And how big? You were describing, and so we'll retread that. But you've got a piece that you've sent out there. How big? Like
it is.
Or was it one piece?
4 feet wide by 5 feet high.
That's huge.
So bigger than me.
And the depth is like it's like 3-inch depth. It's a giant piece
on
of
a piece of wood. Do you have a specifications for the wood that you like to paint on?
Mainly Home Depot.
Is it plywood?
It has to be like high quality ply.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I'll more often than not I'll find a piece that I can reclaim and utilize.
That's cool.
And I try to do that as much as I can, but sometimes that's not feasible. So it's off to selecting the strongest and most durable piece I can acquire.
Fair enough.
I dig it. Your art is crazy to me. When I first saw it, it's a story we talk about a lot, but I had a Walter Russell quote. This has been like 2.5 years ago, I think. And I have a Walter Russell quote I love Walter Russell. Everybody knows that, right? So this quote was so cool, and this quote was basically talking about how we are not our bodies. We are just, the body is the instrument of the divine, right? And just like a piano player is not the player. A piano is just a piano. So are we not our bodies or whatever. It was way more eloquent than that, right? But I had that quote, and it was like I wanted the perfect image to put that quote on. And I searched for like 2 weeks. And then I found this beautiful quote on Google Images after like searching for 2 weeks, like every day, like, I don't want to just put this quote on anything.
Interesting that you found it on Google too.
Yeah, well, you know, and the question is like, where? Now looking back, where was it that I found it? Right?
I don't know.
So that painting you did, Dissolution of Form, popped up. And by the way, you guys need to go follow Jeff on Instagram at Jeff Sullivan Art, 2 L's in Sullivan. Jeff Sullivan Art on Instagram. You can see his artwork. It's just absolutely amazing. Real quick technical thing. JC, check and make sure that GarageBand is closed on there.
Sure.
Looks like it might be open.
We're having way too much fun over here, and we're just kind of half-assing this whole thing, just enjoying ourselves, guys. So bear with us.
A couple windows open there.
Yeah, we got a few extra windows open. We like to try to minimize that as much as possible. But so I found this image, and it's we'll have to show it. We'll edit this into the YouTube. And so anyone who's watching this on YouTube can see the video and see. We're gonna splice in some images of yours.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
of a lot of things that we do, and I know a lot of people listen on iTunes and SoundCloud. I would highly recommend that when you're listening to this, if it happens to be audio, we'll make it as good as we can to describe what we're talking about when we talk about your artwork, but it is something to behold. It is something to be seen.
Thank you.
Got to experience it, you know. But it's powerful stuff. So I posted it on Instagram, and I had this quote, and this Walter Russell quote, and then somebody in the comments after I posted it, everybody was like, "Oh, this is a great quote. It's a great image, whatever." You know, and I'm just like a fucking dipshit at this point in my life. I had no idea that there was like an artist behind this.
When was this?
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah. So I had, no thought went out to the artistry that went into creating this image. I'm like, oh, the internet just spontaneously generates images.
This looks cool. This fits.
You know what I mean?
It does do that.
As,
Yeah.
as an artist, this has got to be like the most offensive stance ever in the world to hear someone express. But like, I just thought, man, the internet just surely spontaneously generates these images, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful the internet spontaneously generated this badass image.
I tell you, it's a wonderful tool to share for everybody, and you kind of need to take the self out of the sharing, because people are going to just crop your name off it 90% of the time anyway.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing to
stomach in the beginning.
Yeah, because I would. This is before I started watermarking things, so I would just shoot it out there, and then I would see it circulate again.
So how
the name's off of it, and I'm like,
how long into creating your style that you have cultivated now to the social media platform, which 10,000 people, which is an amazing accomplishment. How long from the creation of the style that you have embodied that is Jeff Sullivan was the Instagram platform and in this conversation and going on to do the things that you're doing?
I haven't been on Instagram that long.
Really?
Couple years, I think. Maybe like 4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
That makes sense though.
Your following was a lot smaller when we met.
Oh yeah, it was like a couple hundred folks probably.
Yeah, wasn't a whole lot of people.
But I thought it was really cool because it's all images, and I didn't really know anything about it until I, was out in the community and someone's like, "Oh, you should post your stuff on Instagram," and I'm like, "What the hell is Instagram?"
Why would I do that?
So it was just like, it's another platform I have to figure out how to work now.
Mm-hmm. But it's a great platform.
It is.
For an
It's
artist,
user friendly,
yeah.
and
it's art forward. I mean,
it
everybody's
is.
taking pictures, and
Yeah.
the pretty pictures, and the pretty pictures get projected forward into the Instagram.
Yeah, it's just that I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to new technical things. I'm just like,
I get that.
It's going to take time away from making art.
Right.
do I really want to spend that? You know, but I was like, well, in the spirit of sharing and connecting with a wider audience, and look where we are now because of that seed. You know, it just reiterates the positive effect of
it works.
The online community. You know?
It totally works because
it's a tool.
Well,
it's
that's
a new tool,
and that's where it went because I posted that image with the quote on it, having no idea that Jeff Sullivan existed or that a human being, no thought to the fact that a human being was behind the creation of this beautiful, piece of art. And then somebody slides in the comments. They're like, "Hey, man, give credit to the artist," and they tagged Jeff Sullivan, and I went, click. Fuck! There's like a whole page of this kind of art, and there's a human being that's creating this, and I just scrolled through, and I felt like your art hits this it slides into this primal layer of people's consciousness. Everyone I talked to about your art, it certainly hit me this way, and I thought, this is just me that's reacting this way to it, and it's like this. There's some deep thing there, like from before I was born, like the landscapes that you create, this super primal, cosmic sort of space that it just resonated with me at the deepest level of my consciousness, and I couldn't explain it, but it was profound. It still is. And then I started like passing it around to people. I showed it to JC, and I'm like, "What do you think?"
Oh, it's jarring. It's absolutely jarring.
Yeah, it's like this is fucking weirdly.
It makes you gasp for a second when it hits you.
It's weirdly resonant, and so we were working on the online store at that time. Of course, we took a long break from working on that. Now about to launch that at WokeShop.com.
Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you so much, man. And that was when the idea was first being hatched, before we'd really taken any steps.
That's one of the first things we discussed, actually.
I was like, we have this online store that we're working on, and we're about to start working on, and I just felt like it was a synchronistic thing to discover your art at that time. So I was like, all right, get a hold of this guy. So I shot you a DM, we got on the phone, we talked, we hit it off, and I was like, just whatever we can do to get your artwork into the hands, in front of the eyes of as many people as possible, it's just going to make the world a better place, right? Because I'm a big believer, and I know that you are, that art elevates consciousness, or art impacts consciousness, right? Depending on how you steer your intention and the
you feel it.
You feel the art, man.
You feel it. You feel it. There are things that reach out to you and they connect with you, and all of a sudden, especially if you're like on a journey to raise your level of consciousness, right? Something like that hits you and it resonates. And so he found the resonance, passed that on to the community of people that he was surrounded by. It was impactful.
Yeah, the more people I can get, in front of your art, the better. That's how I see it. But it's the same with any other incredible, talented, conscious, elevating artist. Trevor Hall, Paul Isaac, who personally. We got to, and that's another thing too. Like we talk a lot about the musicians and stuff on this show, but we got to spend a day with Paul Isaac. If you guys don't know who Paul Isaac is, go check out Trevor Hall, Paul Isaac, Satsang, Nako. We talk about
tremendous
these guys.
Players for sure.
Awesome guys.
Yeah.
And we had this beautiful experience together back in August. Wasn't it August? I think so. You don't fucking know.
I'm gonna nod yes.
Yeah. Timelines. I don't know. Right brain does not compute.
Respect.
Not online.
Yeah.
Never is.
We had a friend of ours. We put on this little sort of mini music show thing up in the beautiful, majestic woods of Sleepy Hollow in New England, and it's in Connecticut.
Sleepy Hollow Road in North Stonington.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely magical little spot.
Yeah.
And Paul Isaac and Will Evans came out. And just to see you, one of my best friends and one of my favorite artists in the world, sitting there with Paul Isaac, another one of my favorite artists, and really like the first conscious like player that I met, in that space. To see you guys, we had this magical moment in the garden, and we're actually working on a little film for you guys where you guys can go on the YouTube and see, clips and the story of this magical weekend that we spent out there together. But to share that space in the garden with you and Paul Isaac, and you had a hand drum, and Paul's
it was tremendous.
Yeah, Paul's singing and playing, and it was sunny. It's this beautiful magical spot.
We're waiting for the rainbow. Because the sun would be over here and the rain and it was just like, I think because of the mountainous area we're in and the amount of ginormous trees that are everywhere, it didn't present itself. But you could feel that it was on the verge of displaying.
I think it showed up at one point, but what's crazy to me is that whenever Paul sings, he calls in thunder. I've watched some videos of his on YouTube, and he literally starts singing, and thunder will roll in during like really impactful parts of the song. And it had happened when we were out there at Sleepy Hollow.
Sounds like a great time, guys.
Yeah,
it's really disappointing.
sorry to rub it in,
but
you're coming next year.
Here's the
everybody
stone,
needs to come.
Here's the stone getting thrown in the pond, and the ripples making the impact farther than you can see. Is literally my daughter would go, "Hey, play that song," and it's you and Paul playing. And him singing a song, and we don't go to Spotify or iTunes and listen to his album, which is great. But there's this personal experience. There's you. There's him. It's Adam. It's Uncle Adam to her. Filming this on the phone, and there's this energy that came about from this thing, and it just. From that moment that you guys talk about so specially, it has grown out to people that weren't even there.
Yeah.
It's directly impacted other people, and that's the cool video that we're trying to make, and we want that impact to hit.
Yeah.
But I will literally pick my daughter up from school, and we're driving home, and she goes, "Can you put it on?"
Oh, man.
And so that's
the truth of the energy that's there in music and in art, and children are very much attuned to that. So it's like, can you raise my frequency for a minute, Dad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring it over here.
They don't know they're asking for that.
Right.
But that's exactly what they
what's
need.
happening. Yeah,
that's
it's
what
like
they want. Yeah.
And it shows the power of improvisational expression, because that's all that was. I have no way of knowing where he was going.
How many times before that? I know you have a history with playing drums and jazz band and things like that. How many times have you just randomly got up on stage and performed for a bunch of people you didn't know?
Actually, it happens more often than you think.
Oh,
But you've never played with Paul.
Never.
Yeah,
I'm not all that familiar with his music at that time.
You had never really
I
heard
knew
of
he
it.
was, and I was like, oh, great. But it wasn't like, oh my God, and maybe that would have
screwed
the
it
awe
up.
factor would have been like, oh my God,
I
And,
have discovered that it is easier to approach people like that without any concept or preconceived notion of who that person is. It's just another person. And that's how everybody should be and should approach everybody.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Let's say, like, if I walked up to Jennifer Aniston or some super famous person, I would be like, "Oh, I watched you on Friends for
People know you."
Yeah, and I wouldn't be authentic. Right.
It'd be harder. It's harder because there's this thing that is carried. Maybe it's because so many people see them, and we're all looking through everyone else's eyes anyway.
Yeah.
And more eyes have seen them, and we're tapping into this conscious thing that's circulating through all beings.
Well, yeah, it's like they become a talisman in themselves.
Right.
So
So it's
people give them the energy. That's a good. Damn, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But it's like people have infused these people with their energy by watching them, looking at them,
and just
enjoying
because
their music.
we don't personally know these people or don't know the people who know them or have seen them and watched them so many times, we're still connected to them because we're still part of the web, and I think that's why it's so important for music and art to be shared, because the more people know about it and the awareness is created, you'll know too. Eventually, because we're all tapped in.
You saw a counterpoint in the other person, and then you guys had some sort of language, and it felt very natural for you. I wasn't there, but from what I've seen of the videos and stuff, to me, you didn't feel like I'm trying to keep up with this person who's established.
We're jamming.
You guys were just jamming.
It was just having a conversation.
It was a symbiotic relationship.
Oh yeah. Music is a conversation, and you're kind of just. And it's one of those things. It's like, drums not always get to journey into the higher realms of melody and harmony. It's much harder to do that.
Yeah, sure.
So it's like you lay down the groundwork. And create a bridge so the melody and harmony can shine on and fly around. So I've become accustomed to. I've trained for many years to understand how the mechanics of it, how rhythm operates, and
You're a fucking master of it, man. I've seen you
geez.
play. Also, one of the most humble people I've ever met. I love you so much.
love you too, man.
But you are a master of it. I've seen you play a full drum set and just destroy it, right? And I've seen you play a fucking hand drum and kill it. When we first started hanging out and you pulled out your hand drum, I'm like, what the fuck? Why does he have a hand drum? Like, what's he gonna do with a hand drum? What's the point in this? Like,
Right.
Get your drum set. Show me a thing.
Define a hand drum real quick for me, because
I call it a
not
bongo.
the only person.
Yeah, it was the djembe, yeah.
Yeah.
The one that was on the floor.
Tim.
Oh yeah. It's a djembe, you know.
Djembe, JC.
Yeah, Timbe.
Yeah, it's a carved block of wood.
Okay.
With often an animal skin hide, fully stretched around the diameter and woven to keep it super strong, and while at the same time creating a nice melodic timbre.
That vibration.
The
That you need to make
vibration,
the
yeah,
sound. Okay,
and it's
okay.
they're not often tunable, but if they're woven right, they have a nice appealing tone.
That's,
for sure.
that's exciting. That
Yeah.
the instrument is created, and then you have to find the sound within it. Versus we had a conversation about tuning like a commercial drum set, like a Pearl drum set, and how difficult that I found that to be with finding those right harmonies. I almost find a simplicity in the idea of this is how this sounds, and let me find where the noises are that I want to make.
I mean, there's so many different ways to get into that. You know, there's so many different drums and so many different expressions of rhythm that could be expressed. It's endless. But hand drums are really, and this is something that the younger me was like, so boring. It's not a full drum set with cymbals and chinas and stacks and double bass and pedals everywhere. So I didn't really have much of an attraction to it. I was
feel like
like
there's
at
something-
the last resort, and there was versus playing on my lap and playing a hand drum. Yes, I'll play a hand drum.
Yeah.
But over the years, and becoming much more sensitive to sound and how it works, it's actually a miracle instrument.
Well, I was gonna say, like, the thing that blew me away once I actually saw you play the hand drum, particularly that day with Paul in the garden, and then later on during the show, was like how many different sounds you're capable of making with a hand drum. It's a drum with a drum head this big, and just the way that you cup your hands and hold your hands in different parts and hit the rim of the drum, and it's crazy. You can make a whole range of sounds on it,
there's
and
so
there's
many.
mastery in that.
There's
on
so
top
many.
of all the padiddles and the triplets and all those other weird fucking drummer lingo that you use.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what's one of those things, I'm glad that, I was able to take a back seat from all the flair and, not just flair, but the drum set is so attracting that I can't take my mind away from it. But having taken a break from it, I was able to reintroduce this instrument and find so many tones.
So you've got this frame drum. I don't think we're going to do it this moment, but for listeners, viewers, at some point in this podcast or the one that we shoot later tonight or tomorrow, whenever it is we do our next, this is going to be like a 2 or 3 part thing. We are going to get you out on this frame drum.
Oh yeah,
and get you doing some bobbity 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 boom.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
It's you'll see. It's special.
I'm stoked about it.
I find it fascinating that as a young man, you were enamored with the complexity of all the different things of a full drum set, a full drum kit, right?
Oh yeah.
And then through time and age and maturity, this thing that had the potential of all of that, without all the flair, without all the pizzazz, without all the complexity, you could find that in something simple. And I think that's a great metaphor for just kind of
life.
Maturing, growing, life in general. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We overlook something that's so great that can be complex when we put our time and effort into it, but yet there's this other thing, and it's pretty and it's flashy.
Oh, and it's so loud.
Yeah, so loud.
It's the strength and power that comes from having a really high quality instrument like that is,
Well,
incredible.
You
you've
put
got
a lot into it.
You've got sticks in your hand. You've got tools.
And you're
right?
banging on shit.
Now
It's very
I'm
primal.
hitting things and I'm making these sounds and it's beautiful and stuff. But then you found your way back to these more simple instruments
Primordial.
that make as equally complex sounds, right? But you're using your fingertips. You're using the cup of your palm. You know, I mean, what to me that just talks to the greater consciousness of not necessarily who you are, but who we all are. Is the longer we walk the path, the more we realize a splashy cymbal is great, but I can make that sound with my bare hands. I don't need a stick. I don't need this extra thing. I don't need this. It comes from within. It all comes from within.
And I don't need to bang so hard that it wakes up the neighbors down the street to make my point.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
You know?
your ears and eyes and your senses become much more in tune. The more in tune you are with your body and your mind and your awareness, really is what it boils down to. So the culmination of your work and your putting it into this thing called presence or awareness allows your senses to be so fine-tuned that every little thing that enters your life, especially music, is like, oh my God, I can hear like every little nuance that's...
So you bring up presence and awareness, and that's something that you and I spend a lot of time talking about together.
Sure,
right?
sure do.
The eternal struggle for presence.
It's ongoing.
Wrestling for momentary awareness.
Yeah.
You know, just battling to be here in this moment and exist and be. And so we've talked about that, and you've got such a great perspective on that. And, you know, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You know, we fuck up constantly, and we're always. That's why we have these conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Together is like, man, what are you struggling with right now? Well, fuck, man, I'm just trying to meditate. I'm trying to get there, but talk a little bit about that. Talk about how some of your practices and just from the place of a flawed man who works on these things constantly. You know, what's your meditation game looking like these days? You doing okay? You fucking off?
It depends on what it seems to be for me is time management. And waking up each day's different. It's how best can I solve the time management of the day.
Sure.
And you're splicing it. And of course, there's things I would love to do more than others on certain days, depending on my creative energy that's at my that's there.
Yeah.
Some days it's not there. So, in those days, it's like I'll just rest then.
Yeah.
So I'm not forcing that.
So I know
that
that's a big thing you've helped me with through our friendship and conversation is not trying to force the creative energy to flow.
Right.
That's fucking tough, man.
Oh, you're not kidding.
I have to create today.
I've got to do this.
I have no other choice.
There's days
but to get this done.
There's days where that's the motif or the theme of the day is, all right, this I don't care if I'm tired. I'm gonna dig. And if I hit granite, but I'm gonna dig anyway. And you know what? That's okay too. But I've lately, just in the last month or two, it's been I'm gonna rest because I feel I'm gonna do more harm than good. Yeah. And I don't want to be halfway into a painting and I just went in a really screwed up place because I just was too impatient.
Yeah.
And I think the presence...
You dig yourself into a hole.
You dig yourself into a hole, and then I spend like days trying to fix what I could have just...
So when you force things, they don't work out as well as when you don't force them?
Right.
Profound.
I know.
Yeah. But it's true, and it's something that we overlook.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, it's just, it's for me, for someone else it'd be like, well, duh, Jeff, like, but for me, it's like, I cannot stop. And if it's not through music, it's not through visual art, it's like, it's something that needs to keep going as many hours as possible. And I do what I can through diet and meditation to keep it online and active because it's the joy of my life, one of the joys of my life to express and to translate certain things into form.
Well, talk about that, because I know that that's one of the fascinating things about, again, that initial painting of yours that I found, Dissolution of Form.
Dissolution, yeah.
And the quote that I put on that, right? Which,
Mm.
having not ever met you, not ever talked to you, I still look back and think about how beautiful and synchronistic
It's
that
perfect, yeah.
it was. It's amazing because really, when you create, you're essentially channeling. You're trying to become completely absent, present to the point of absence.
Absolutely, perfectly said. Yeah.
To move into complete alignment with the creative energies that are trying to flow through you, and to cultivate an atmosphere of creativity, and then you just go blank. Fuck, man, there's a Tupac lyric I want to throw in. What does he say? He says something about when I write rhymes, I go blind and let the Lord do His thing. And I just think about that channeling. Trevor Hall said it on Brandon Beacham's podcast, on the Positive Head podcast. He said, when an artist is really at their best, they're completely absent. And so between you, Tupac, and Trevor Hall, three of my favorite artists, you're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, I think there's a great truth to that, and I think the struggle or the friction is in letting that part of the your being or your mind get out of there.
Backseat.
Come on, because it comes up often, and even when I'm in the creative space, it'll kind of like open the door and kind of peek in and like, hey, you want to start thinking about you have to go grocery shopping, and I'll just be like.
No, not today, Satan.
No, you need to go back there. Get back there. So, and it's it's a portal, really, and through being there so much and through so many hours and hours of just devotional labor and intention, it just becomes this flow of creative energy.
Well, your art feels and it looks like what a flow state would be,
right,
on a canvas. I mean, it feels a flow state. I specifically have a snake right now in my mind, and it just feels fluid and fluidity. And what you do is you capture this positive negative space and these forms, and it tends to be a human form, it tends to be an animal form, and these different energies that surround those and embody those. And I'm just curious as to, when you get into that place, do you already know what you're doing, or does it start with one dot? And does it grow into other dots?
Good question.
Do you have ideas?
We've never talked about this.
No, we haven't.
I can't wait to hear. I've been saving this question for like 2.5 years on this podcast.
Let me take my shoes off.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
Please.
Let's do it. We've actually been saving some of these questions for literally 2.5 years, because this podcast has been that long in the making. And it's a
long-awaited
fucking
podcast.
really exciting time. So yeah, let's settle in. How does the creative fucking flow work with you?
It's different from piece to piece.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll get a vision, even if it's for a second or two, and it'll, a lot of them come when I'm waking up.
Yeah.
When you're in that state.
The twilight state.
The twilight state from sleep to waking consciousness.
So waking up, you're being legitimate and just waking up in the morning, or waking up from a nap.
Right, and thankfully, lately in the last year or so, I've been grateful enough to be in a position where waking up is much more softer than it used to have to be. And it's a beautiful thing not to have to force yourself into the world. Anyway, so
dude, no, I get that.
Yeah.
But that is a thing, and it does impact your creative flow and all of your life flow. Waking up to an alarm clock, rushing to get ready.
Super
get the
jealous
kids
if
ready.
you can wake up in a fruitful place like that.
Yeah, what is that like?
It's pretty great. But it's one of those things. So not all the visions come in that state, but many do, and I keep like this ongoing catalog of ideas. It's kind of just in the file cabinet, so to speak. And there's a process of priming to even get a canvas or a panel ready to even work on. So, and
So by priming,
takes
for people who don't know,
yeah,
you're prepping the canvas.
right. It's like a devotional priming of the material of the being.
So that's a meditative ritual in itself for you.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I work on trees, so that is still a being.
You're simply spending a ton of time making a black background, I guess. You're just getting that color that you want.
Yeah, and the texture, the way it feels. There's a sanding process, there's a priming process, there's a resanding, a repriming, another sanding, another priming to get it to as good as it's gonna be. And at the same time, I'm kind of intentionally laboring over this being, this tree, and when it comes time to, okay, I'm gonna infuse whatever this vision is, whatever, I try not to intellectualize it too much. Just know that it's there and it's in my unconscious, and it's time to
get it out,
to bring it into form. Yeah, to draw it through or bring it through. And a lot of times I will just gaze into the canvas for a while and just see if I can see it there already, and then I can work. And that's a process that I've done a few times. Another time, sometimes I'm so excited and it's so crystallized that I immediately hammer it.
Almost just like tracing.
Well, no, I draw the form out. I use a colored pencil, a white one, and I draw the entire thing. The entire thing is drawn, and I don't put any paint on it until the form is fully taken care of first, because a lot of mistakes have been happened.
Sure.
A lot of mistakes have been happened in the way, and then of course once it's drawn, as I'm doing the first few layers of paint, I'm able to start erasing the sine waves or the pathways that led, the circle work or the dot
Are
work.
you freehanding the lines that you're like? I've got one of your. Well, I've got actually two of your paintings. One original and one illuminized print, which is like the most beautiful, awesome thing ever. Called Unity Consciousness. But
Unity Consciousness, yeah.
But there are these beautiful, not just in those ones, but in lots of yours. There are these beautiful. You call them sine waves, right? Where there are like these like skittle dot things that come in rainbows and all kinds of different colors, but they're these beautiful fluid lines that are just dotted, right? Do you freehand all of those? You freehand all of that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So everything is freehand.
Yes. Well, I mean, I use a giant ruler to mark the exact center of the piece,
That's
so I
fine,
know.
But brush to wood or canvas.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I always have to.
Incredible.
Like center the image, and I always do the cross center, so I know exactly like if so the composition isn't all like wonky, like
right.
off to the left or off to the right. And some of the older work, I didn't have that awareness really. It was like, oh my god, I have an idea. Let me try and get this idea, and it's and that's fine.
Yeah.
But now it's at a point where it's like I want to refine it, so I'm not taking shortcuts anymore.
What is it exactly that you think this vision or this place came from? Like what did that start from psychedelic experiences? I know you're a musician, and I know that you've taken psychedelics. I don't know if you want to get into that on the podcast, but I feel like you're pretty open to the concept. Where did the concept for the art that you're creating now and this vision that you have, like where was that birthed from? Because it's so unique, it's so different, it's so you. I'm just curious as to where that started.
I think it was like an accumulative thing.
Okay.
I started working with various plants from a very young age.
Sure.
I wouldn't want my kids to be as young as I was when I was working with them, but
that makes sense.
It found me, and it was necessary at that time, and I felt the calling actually much younger. I was, I think, like in 5th or 6th grade when I first learned that plants can alter consciousness.
Okay.
So I was over in the adult section of the library reading about magic mushrooms and LSD and things like that, tobacco, marijuana. And even though I never had any access to any of that stuff, at a young age it was fascinating. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And was looking forward to hopefully crossing paths with it later in life. So, I think I was like a junior in high school when it or
Were you already painting at that time?
I was first introduced to marijuana much younger, but which was great. That was I noticed that too. I would smoke pot, and my artwork would be way different than it was originally.
It'll do that.
And that's what. So I was
Either that or
that
make
was,
you really paranoid.
Well, then there's that too. I was like,
yeah.
oh my god,
Or
the
both.
cops are here.
You're only painting when you're not sitting over there at the window looking between the blinds. Just back and forth.
So it's
canvas window.
And it was
canvas.
a humorous expression though for the most time, because I was like, this is so hilarious, like just drawing and looking back the next day, a couple days later, and be like, what is this? So it was so inspiring, the fact that you just smoked a plant and something was expressed that never could have come out otherwise.
Right.
Or it wouldn't have come out in that way. So
Yeah.
I recognized the importance and the power of that. So once the visionary helpers came, it was so incredible and helpful and inspiring.
Well, we talk about psychedelics a lot on this podcast. So the visionary things, do you think that the launching mark to where you're at now is it contributed by the things that you experienced on, say, an ayahuasca or psilocybin or anything like that?
I think the frequency of the transmission is of that higher dimension, that higher vibration. So it's I think when we are traveling in those states, we're actually imprinted with those states.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so coming back and musicians and artists, after being imprinted, it has no choice but to come out as an expression of what the experience you've had. It's like traveling to Texas or anywhere in the world, and you're imprinted with the canyons and the mountains and the sky, and so of course artists are sensitive beings, and we bring those experiences back, and your painting's never going to be the same after seeing
I've
Yosemite
seen you,
or the Grand Canyon.
I've seen you turn corners in your art at times, after an ayahuasca voyage over the course of a few days, and you come back and you're like, dude, I'm never going to be the same. And then I look at your artwork, the next painting that comes out, and it's like, where the fuck did this come from? Like, it's a whole new Jeff Sullivan, And I think that that's a big thing about these entheogenic plants and stuff, is that not only are they tremendously healing, have that capacity in and of themselves to be extremely medicinal, but they also inspire and open up these creative pathways that, as you say, they may never have popped up on their own. And they give you, I know we've talked about this, but, I never really created visual art, sketching, drawing, whatever. But it was working with mushrooms and opening up my third eye that allowed me to start sketching and to project a third eye vision that I had in my mind onto a piece of paper. And essentially all I was doing was tracing it onto paper. I could see it right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, you can hold on to it and work with it. And that's another trick too, which is that's why meditation is absolutely important for us to do, because it helps you crystallize things. And when I was really doing a lot of the meditation work, probably a year and a half ago, I was developing this technique where I would purposely induce a vision, and hold on to it and study it, and then let go of it, produce another one. And this is not on anything other than just a waking normal state. I'm not induced with anything.
Okay.
And
this is a physical exercise that you're bringing.
Like working with it, and it's just, I noticed, because it's just something I need in my toolbox when I'm working. And when you're working on a painting, you need to be able to recall certain things. And then there's the improvisational element, which is I hold in high regard too, because if you're sitting there and you're trying to sometimes you just gotta just improvise, and sometimes it's like, wow, okay, that's great, it's a good thing to do. I think as many tools as we can think to use, while trying to keep the other side of the mind out of the
100%, man.
Yeah.
I'm not Jeff Sullivan, and I'm not that good of a painter, but the process of applying when I'm making a painting to problem solving in my real life, I've had many conversations with Adam about is I totally fucking just misstroked this one thing, and from that, can I start over? No, I can't start over. But what can I make from this?
Yeah,
And
where's it
how do I
going
grow
now?
out of that, and how that grows off of the canvas into your real life. It really has to do with, I think, where you're at in your thought processes and stuff. But there is something to improvisation that works on a physical level of painting, and then also in general when things happen that you didn't intend to happen.
Yeah, and it's we're all in the boat.
Yeah.
Gently down the stream, and
Might not be merrily.
Yeah, but
Not all the time.
we have the oar.
Yeah.
Can we paddle backwards? No, but we can help. Like, I don't want to hit that rock. Okay, I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure I don't hit anything, and but things are going to arise that are unpredictable. That's just the way it is. And if we can just at least summon some level of awareness so we don't freak out and hurt ourselves or hurt someone else.
Yeah. Well, and keeping ourselves in a state of, like we say, presence or awareness helps us to navigate between the waters of gratitude and terror.
Yeah.
Of abundance and scarcity. And everyone at this table I happen to know has had their own journey with depression and with anxiety. And I think all three of us would agree, and for anyone listening or watching who's had these journeys themselves, like, meditation can be a life-changing thing, because it's really easy to slip into these vibrational patterns, these lower vibrational patterns of fear, which is really what anxiety is. Worry, fear, anxiety, it's all the same thing. The different manifestations of fear ultimately is what anxiety or worry or concern. It's fear, right? So you got fear, you got gratitude, and just being thankful for what you have. It can be really tough, and I'm the king of this, of getting stuck in these anxiety spirals, and then I'm just like, man, I'll remember my teaching, and it's like, all right, I'm going to be grateful. That does not work, because I'm busy trying to run the rat race while I'm doing that. You got to stop and pull yourself out of that situation and take yourself, I don't care what you have to do, where you have to go. You're going to keep running in that fucking loop, and if you don't pull yourself out of that chaos, out of those chaotic waters, and go somewhere where the water's still and quiet, and then organize the chaos from there, and then I've got we went to Sedona this summer, and I have a picture that was taken of me sitting on a rock in the middle of this river in Sedona from like back behind, and that picture meant so much to me because there was a lot going on in my life. And there was all this turbulent water around me.
Right.
But I was sitting up on this rock.
The symbolic nature. And it's funny how life does that.
Yeah.
Puts you in places and it's up to you to realize that this is symbolic of a lot of the things that I'm going through.
Yep.
Or maybe it's a premonition of things that you'll go through.
Yep.
And in doing the work that we're doing, there's like an intuitive mechanism that's developed as well. So you're tuned into these things either before they happen or while they're happening, and numerology plays a huge role in that too, and recognizing certain patterns and kind of recognition and things of that. And so that's awesome that you're able to see that, and that's such a powerful image.
Yeah, it is, and but to get quiet was key, to get quiet and listen. Because again, I'll sit there in these crazy thought spirals and just try to pull myself out of it, force myself out of the water, and that doesn't work. You've got the one directed effort you can make is to force yourself to physically, right? Because it's much easier to control your body sometimes than it is your mind.
Oh yeah.
To take control of your body, like right now, I could take this ring off and I could fling it across the room. It's a physical thing that's pretty easy to do. But if I was stricken with manic anxiety right now, harnessing and wrangling that anxiety would be much more difficult. So just pull yourself out of that chaotic situation for 5 minutes and breathe. We talk about conscious breathing a lot on this show. You know, it's just take. I like the 4-2-4 thing. Just a 4 count in. Hold for 2. 4 count out. And the key that I had to teach myself was make every second last longer than the previous. Because I would just rush through and go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You know, but
Speed this up.
it's make everyone make every second last longer than the one before. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that really slows shit down. You know, that works for me, right? But I had to conquer that, you know, I'm always got that forward thinking. I'm always looking over this moment's shoulder into the next moment. What's next, you know? And that's a good practice. But when you do that, it's a lot easier to sit back and pick from the buffet and go, I'm going to choose gratitude.
Right.
I'm going to leave fear at the door. And then you start this whole new thought spiral. And as far as I can tell, the only thing that interrupts a spiral is mindfulness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, and the mind doesn't want to breathe.
No.
It wants to keep projecting madness.
Yes.
And it becomes this pathological spiral, or oblivion of the spiraling energy that's just not conducive with what the hell you're supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just,
Absolutely.
it's a great teacher if there's awareness there to recognize it as such. Otherwise, it's a menace, and it has a hold on so many folks, and it's unfortunate.
I find people will hear all the things we're talking about, and I can speak from experience with this, is that, meditate, breathe, you know, focus your thoughts, focus your energy on stuff. And the saying that people repeat and a lot of people use is fake it till you make it, right? And so you can hear all of this stuff, and you can fake all of this stuff until you hope that you achieve some sort of semblance of peace in your life. But you can't fake it.
Yeah.
You have to be conscious. You have to be right here in this moment, really, really thinking about it. You don't go, okay, 4 seconds in, 2 seconds out, and I'm good.
Well, yeah.
Right? No, there's more. There's a layer of being super present that you have to, and I think is the overarching of all the exercises is I'm aware, I'm present, I'm here, and I've done enough of this and wasn't present. Then I went, not for me.
Yeah.
How many? I can't tell you how many times. Yeah, I meditated. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
See, I was
Didn't
quiet. It was peaceful. I did my deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, and it was great. Okay, I'll try that again some other time.
Bullshit.
You really have to add a layer of presence, perception, and honesty to yourself, and you have to awaken something and really think about what you're doing versus just going through the motions. Fake it till you make it doesn't necessarily work when you're trying to achieve something greater than where you're at. You know, because anybody who's listening right now and anybody sitting at this table can confirm that when you really are present and you really do focus on these simple things like breathing, like meditation, like focusing on the bigger picture, the inner workings, then that effect starts to take a hold and then it starts to grow out. But if you just go through the motions, you go, I heard them say do this and then I tried that and then it didn't work for me. There's that missing piece.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, the quality of what you're doing all the time generates an awareness too.
Sure.
Because I think we all know when we're half-assing something.
Right.
You know?
A lot of the time.
It's a big
And
part of
that's
it.
a
It's a big
really
part of
hard thing. It's one of the 4 agreements, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, especially if you're doing something undesirable, you still have to do it with a high degree of quality, you know, and do your best, you know.
With intention.
With intention, you know. So that was a hard struggle, but, you know, the more difficult things that you're able to do your best with a higher quality, the things that you love to do are going to be in a higher state.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're you know, it's like you love it already.
Well, everything is everything. So, like, I love The Rock. I love, you know, Dwayne Johnson. I love, you know, who he is and the energy he brings, the passion he brings, and all that. I mean, of course, he's his own special kind of monstrosity, right? Not many Dwayne Johnsons walking around. But he's got these little nuggets every once in a while. And one of the things that he said, hey, JC, hit that phone for me, please.
Sure.
Oh, never mind. We lost it.
I think we've been over an hour.
Good. he says he was doing some pull-ups one time on Instagram, and he said, slow and controlled, just like life. You know? And then he or someone else made some comment and said, you know, walk through a room the way you walk through life. And I'm just thinking of embodying the archetype, right? Whatever your archetype is that you're going for. Walk through a room the way you walk through life. You made a post about this a long time ago, and it was one of the first times that it was brought into my awareness, maybe a year ago or something, about, you know, walking in presence. You know, walking, instead of me either looking at my phone while I'm walking down a sidewalk into my office, or, you know, just walking through a parking lot really fast to get to the building. You know, I catch myself more and more all the time and intentionally stop, slow myself down, bring my presence to each step. Bring my presence into each breath, each step across a parking lot. And I'm taking in the birds, the trees, the cars, the air. Every second is lasting longer, and it's more present. And you train your brain to function in that more present state. And it's a part of holistic health. It's
Oh, absolutely. You know, in that way, whatever experience you're in, it's not a means to an end.
Yeah,
it's the
right.
process.
The journey is the goal.
Yeah. You know, and at every moment, just about every moment becomes much more peaceful and beautiful and.
Well, yeah, because if you're not present in the current moment, then you are living in a thought about the future, and there is dissonance, not resonance, between your mind state and your physical state. But whenever you bring yourself into a state of presence is resonance. And I'm living in this moment. I'm thinking in this moment. My body exists in this moment, and I'm here. And it's a peaceful place to be. And that's another thing about meditation. And we talk about meditation as a separate practice. Conscious breathing may be a part of that, but it's also a separate practice. But then just practicing mindfulness in each step in this way, these things are all correlated, right? They're all tied together. They're all kind of all the same thing. You cannot exercise them all at one time. But whenever you meditate and you do any one of these things, your brain hemispheres all begin to, they've got fMRI scans of brains whenever they do meditation, and they'll show a chaotic brain with it's lighting up like a Christmas tree all over the freaking place. And then they'll do an fMRI scan, and all of a sudden the hemispheres are balanced. The energy is sort of equally distributed across the brain, and it's a whole different thing.
Would you say that these practices that you implement in your life, obviously they have effect on your artwork? Were you creating the art that you're creating now without these? When you adopted all this, because I know you use all of these tools in your life.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Was there a moment where you made built the bridge between your creative flow in the art that you create to the practices of meditation and mindful thinking and breathing and being aware of all of this higher consciousness level?
I definitely feel the art, the quality of the work has grown because of the practice, and that I'm in tune with. You know, in each passing work or a couple works, there's a higher degree, a higher quality, or things are being refined. You know, and I don't think they would be refining if my consciousness was seeping much lower and I was becoming more angry and more.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it's like, and it's okay to be angry, you know, and that's fine. It's a sign that you're not tolerant of whatever's happening, and it's not okay.
Okay.
You know, it's still a viable expression.
Leads me into a question that I've been dying to ask you since I saw this piece of art.
Okay.
You have a very scary piece of art, at least to me.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Yes. You have a specific piece. What is it titled?
It's The Shadow.
The Shadow.
Or The Possession. It's the Possession.
It, to me, moved me in a positive way. It really did. It made me feel a lot of feels that I didn't want to feel when I first saw it, but it moved me in a positive way. It was almost the recognition of the shadow. I saw it.
Interesting.
And for those who don't know, The Shadow is a beautiful piece of art, but it moved me in a way, and I just am curious as to And you don't have to.
No,
because
no,
it seems
I-
like a powerful piece. But I kind of want to know a little backstory on that one, and we will superimpose that piece of art
Okay.
onto this so people can see what we're talking about. But it does have an effect on the human consciousness. It really does. On mine, I know on Adam's, and anybody else that I've ever showed it to. It's a very powerful, moving piece, but it is not your normal. It doesn't have the levity. Doesn't have the bright colors. It's a different piece of art, and I just would love absolutely for you to, if as much as you were willing to share on it.
Thank you. You know, Adam was one of the first people to actually see it
Yeah.
finished
remember.
too. I had it covered with like a piece of black velvet.
Yes, I heard the story.
And I was waiting for Adam to show up, and I knew he was coming, and I was in the finishing touches of it when he arrived. So when he came over, I covered it up with a piece of black velvet and was waiting, you know, and I was like curious to see what he sees. You know, has such a great mind, you know,
Right.
and it means a lot, you know, to get his perspective, you know, and so when actually, you know, I worked on it a couple times out in the community at live events, and I was painting. I brought
really?
it to a couple events, yeah,
you
that one
in public, in front of other people.
right? But they were like Halloween,
How dare you?
Halloween type events too, or at least
Okay.
one of them was like a Halloween. So I thought it was okay,
Okay.
but I could just tell that people were really disturbed by it, and
Yeah.
a lot of people did not come anywhere near it, which is not usually how it is. Usually people want to get up really close and they want to feel what's radiating off of it, but it
Right.
was like for the first time I've ever live painted, people were very uncomfortable, and which actually was exciting
Oh, I bet.
because it makes me. It was you know, it was like, okay, that means I'm tapping into something that's true, and it's not like gory or there's entrails and guts, and it's not like that. It's just there's something psychological that's happening.
Oh yeah, it's not a violent looking piece. It's beautiful. It's mesmerizing. It's symmetrical. It's wonderful. But when you see it, it does it, and it's unnerving in a weird way.
And
you
it
know?
and it was disturbing to me too, because you know, here I am drawing this bringing this being through that I actually originally saw in meditation, which was inspired by watching a mental health patient become possessed by some entity. You know, when I was working in a residential facility at the time, and
Which is a big part of your history. So you're used to that. You've
yeah,
seen these
I've
things.
seen vulnerable. You know,
Yeah.
I've worked in many places where I've caregiven for many vulnerable folks. You know, both physical and psychological issues.
Yeah.
You know, so and this was kind of like a more of a mental health type situation, and I was watching this fellow who was in a wheelchair, and he's kind of just looking around, and then something kind of came in, and then he just started going, you know, wild. You know, his eyes were starting to, you know, just dart off in all directions, and he's swearing and screaming and growling, and you know, confined to this wheelchair, and it was like really disturbing. And I just was present with it, and I'm just watching it, and I'm like, all right, just there's not much you can do in that situation, and then just be present and just kind of, you know, and it passes, you know, but just it was a confirmation that the possession is an actual real thing, and that you know, unfortunately, folks with cognitive issues are like an open vessel for any type of
Right.
energetic
These type of things, yeah.
thing to enter and hit the controls for a little while and then take off or not.
Yeah.
I've seen it enough to know, and that was just a confirmation because, you know, that's where I was at my state. So that inspired that painting originally.
Yeah, I know when I
And-
walked into your studio at your house, it was covered up, and
Yeah.
when you unveiled it, by the way, your studio, just so everyone knows, is all windows. It's a beautiful green room, and it lets in all the natural light from every wall,
Yep.
except for one, I think.
Except one, yeah.
And it's a very bright room, but as soon as you unveiled that fucking thing, it darkened. Half the room darkened. I mean, it just sucked the energy out of that half the room. And I think that's testament to a few things, or a couple of things. I mean, one is just your ability to portray and express the thing that you're trying to portray and express, because you had this really demonic sort of force that you had witnessed, and then you brought that thing to life, or at least, you know, expressed it in visual form for the rest of people to see. And then also the power of that force itself, of that dark force. Whenever I first showed that to a few people, I think JC was here, and a couple of the other guys that work with us, one of whom is not a spiritual dude at all. This is like the most material, you know, scientifically minded left brain dude, you know, imaginable. Not like an art critic, you know, but very, very, very smart. And showed them this, and Howard was like, Jesus, that picture is disturbing. It's like, he goes, it's amazing, but it's disturbing. And he just got this look on his face. He's like, I don't like looking at it. You know, it bothers me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And JC made the comment, he goes, it looks like he just shot, you know, it's like he just shot a lion or some big scary beast, and he's standing next to it with his rifle in hand.
Wow.
Oh,
you
yes,
know?
the picture of you next to the painting.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
Oh.
yes. It was almost like you were on
yeah.
a safari and you had conquered a beast and you had slayed this animal. It was primal. It was wild.
Wow. It's a big painting too.
It's a big painting for sure.
What are the dimensions of that painting?
I want to say it's 36 by 48.
Yeah, it's a 3 by 4 foot.
It's a huge
It's a big one.
painting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And within it, the more you look at it, which I had to have him tell me, and I believe you explained a lot to him of these layers of the dynamic of what's really happening in these forms within forms. That when I saw it, I just saw this scary thing.
It's interesting because a lot of people only see the demon.
Right.
Right.
They
There's a person in there.
they're fixated on the scary demon.
Well,
that's,
let's just put a pin in that. Is that not maybe a metaphor for real life?
I know.
You know, a lot of
I
people
know.
just see the demon; they don't see the person in there.
Right, exactly, and that was the
True with the painting.
motif that came.
Was that the intention?
Well, that's what the intention came up as soon as I saw that a person could exist within that demon.
So did you draw the demon first?
I did.
Fuck.
I did.
Really?
I started with the demon, and that was my intention to do like this dragon-like demon.
Wow.
You know, and then I was like, I need to infuse a being in there to create the relationship between the shadow and the person and the psyche, and the fact that, you know, underneath all of the evil there is still a person.
There's a person in there.
There's a person underneath, you know, and I don't know. I just felt it was an important thing to try and bring in, you know, try and translate, you know.
Yeah, that. I think that painting was one of the first ones I saw from you that portrayed something totally dark. You know,
I'm actually working on another one like that.
Oh, great.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's
No,
you know, it's
see
one of the
it.
things too with that one in particular because it was so different from what I'm used to, you know. And I would sit in my studio after everyone went to bed and just look at it, and it felt. You know, there was another thing in the room with me.
I was about to say, is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
taxing on you?
It
when
was
you're painting
disturbing
something
because
like
I was
that?
actually like obsessed with the creation of it because it felt there was another being that was like,
yeah.
Yes,
paint
more.
me, let's
There,
go,
there,
let's go.
there.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like it kind of, I wouldn't say it was scary, but I was like, whew, all right, let's do this, you know, and
It's almost like visiting the zoo at nighttime and walking up to the bars of the lion's cage and
Yeah.
just seeing the lion slowly creep out of the shadows and come up to you at the bars. It's like, you know, you're safe.
yeah,
You're pretty sure you're safe.
Yeah, you
But
know-
there is some inkling of that primal response, that
right.
survival instinct inside of you that's going, at a deep level, this thing is a real and present danger. You know?
And I have a couple folks in the community I'm with, and a shaman in particular has seen that, and he said, "Oh," he's like, because he was, you know, looking at my art, and he was just like, "That one's disturbing," and he's like, "I know those beings, You know, and I was like, oh, is this the one you want? He's like, I don't want to own that. He's like, I'll take the snake, but he's like, that's disturbing.
It's like having the Mahabharata in your house. Like you're not supposed to have a painting of the Mahabharata because it's supposed to bring bad luck and chaos. Yeah.
That's a part of the shadow that really resonated the first time I saw it. And it's fractal in nature. I can see from my heavy doses of psychedelic experiences when I'm really going on an inward journey, I can see the shadow and I can see it fold into 4 more of itself and then 8 more of itself and then what comes on the other side of that. And I've been to a dark pocket of my consciousness or wherever I am when I'm in those spots, and we all have flaws, and I've visited those places. And so when I saw the shadow, it was almost like that initial fractal that grows and then it starts to inflect. And so the fact that you had layered in all of these different things and there's a person inside of there, to me, when I saw that hit me with like the most challenging psychedelics experience that I've had.
Oh, sure.
You know, and that was a reflection of that. It was the beginning of that inward journey.
Yeah.
You know? It resonated. I want to ask, when you're working on something like that, are you also working on other? Is it one piece at a time? Can you bounce back and forth?
Oh yeah, I bounce back and forth.
You got way too much ADD for that shit, huh?
I can't stay on one piece.
Okay, well, good to know.
Unless I have a deadline.
Yeah,
and then I'm miserable because I'm stuck with a couple different colors versus like 12 or 15 if I'm working on multiple paintings.
Yeah,
you know,
back to forcing creativity in that
I
space.
know, and it's like you're painting. Like it's pretty good right now. What's the problem? You can't just be happy with what you're. But it's just my mind. I like broad spectrum, application of creativity.
We need duality. You need.
Yeah, I need to be able to move around, in the playground, and
sure.
I'm happy painting and creating for the most part. And I love deadlines too. It gets, especially with what we have going on this weekend,
Which I want to get to in a minute and talk about that.
Yeah, but I like to work on multiple pieces at the same time because I like, I've been on blue for a week. I need to mix it up. And it's things like that. Like I need to get a pigment change, and that's why I like doing it.
Yeah, I get that.
It's different techniques too. Like, yeah,
because you do a lot of we've talked about it earlier, but like a lot of the dots.
Yeah,
it's a special Jeff Sullivan trademark that
we call them dots. What do you call them?
What do you call that? I call them Skittles. I got my Skittle
it's
people.
Spaced out pointualism. Like what is
well,
it?
There are it's a dot movement apparently, I guess. You see it more and more, but it's not the same. And I come to refer it as sine wave mosaic frequency waves.
Sine wave mosaic.
Yeah, it's like sine waves mosaic frequencies, but it's done with circles. So what the circles embody and represent is each circle is a representative of wholeness, oneness, the body, all those things. So it's not like I'm just like boom, dot 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 dot. That has never been the process. I would have 1,000 more paintings done a year if that were the case.
Sure.
It's a slow and steady application. So one wave might take me an hour, maybe 2. Depends on how many coats of paint. I like to load those suckers up. So a lot of the paintings, there's 3 coats on the entire painting. It's never been as easy as 1 coat.
I wish I had the patience for it. I think that if I practiced at it, I could maybe have the patience to make a small painting.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do that.
Patience grows out of
practice.
Out of practice, and
everything else.
And the thing is too with art and creativity. Period. It's like we always got to raise it up a little bit more. And when you're done with something, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do better next time. I mean, at least that's my mindset. Where it's like, okay, that's the best I could do in that moment. Here comes a new moment. I'm going to do the best I can in that moment. So everything's it's evolving every time. I try to refine it every single time to the point where it's like, okay, it's always going to evolve. I don't think it's ever just going to stay in one one spot, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's an interesting thing, you know. I want to challenge myself and branch out. That's why the shadow was so different, because I wanted to stretch out and see what was possible. Same thing with the Hathra piece, which was there's actually 2 circles in the entire image, which is just the light of each pupil, the reflective light.
Is it the old one or the new one?
The big one that I think you might have seen the first time you came over.
Yeah, yeah.
The one that was on the wall,
opposite wall from the shadow,
which was a channeled piece.
Which I love the story behind that thing.
Let's get into the channeling of a piece. Like what is to anybody who doesn't know, and I have some context because you and Adam are so close that I know the stories of your process through him. You channel
from time to time, yeah.
When painting, and what does that mean? What is that like? In the best, if you don't mind.
I'm glad we're in the I'm expressing this in this context where there isn't a shrink standing in the room judging me and being like,
no, you're talking to 70,000+ people who
and we're very interested in what you have to say.
Who are very interested in this.
I'm not a threat to society.
No,
okay.
well, like I said, this is, to be clear, I mean, this is a thing that bringing up Trevor Hall. I mean, Trevor Hall talked about this on the Positive Head podcast just a few weeks ago, episode number 999 with Brandon Beecham. And he said the exact same thing. Tupac said the exact same thing. I mean, I think most of your great artists that have a good relationship with their own egos are going to admit that, and I'm convinced of it. I've done it myself. Some of the very few fully created songs that I've recorded, produced, wrote, start to finish, played all the instruments on and the vocals. They came from a place of channeling. And when someone would try to give me credit for those, that was the first time in my life that ever happened. And I went, I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, it was coming to me, and I'm fucking frantically writing it. It was like Shia LaBeouf in Transformers 2 or whatever. He just goes up on the board and glitches out, and he's just like,
yeah.
That was me.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, great artists, I think, all do it. They don't talk about it, because the term channeling, and even like Trevor said this in that podcast with Brandon, he's like, there's kind of a connotation when you talk about channeling people, if you're of a certain religious or spiritual belief, that sounds bad or evil or whatever, but it's not that kind of thing.
It's a very provocative word.
Yeah.
And
we don't do that here.
We don't do that.
Yeah, right. It's like, what do you mean there's a supernatural element to this existence?
Yeah, well, if you're thinking like that, you're probably not following this podcast.
Yeah,
thankfully,
rightfully so. I didn't, the first time not the first time, but the more recent channeling experience was when I painted the Rainbow Body piece, which is
I don't know which one that is offhand, but
yeah, it's a being that's looking straight at you, or kind of looking like this. And
we'll pull it up and we'll
it's
insert it into the video.
It's actually the first painting I did not doing the circles.
It's lots of lines.
Lots of so I'll draw the sine waves, and then I'll draw the circles. But this time I was like, draw the lines, paint the lines, no circular pathways, and why not? Let's stretch out and see what happens. So I did the whole thing that way, and then I had ingested, psychopharmacological agent, and
sure.
Was meditating, and
you had some CBD.
So and
5 dry grams
and
of
at
CBD.
some point I went downstairs because I was very excited to see it in the enhanced state, to see if it's working. It's always good to get that.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was like it was in the room, off the page or off the canvas, just in the room, and I was like, oh man, like, oh wow, okay. And I just was like, okay, this is really interesting, So I think the next few days after, I was looking at it, trying to figure out, like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I wonder, if I could do something else like this. And the painting said, you need to paint a bigger one.
Okay.
Meant you need to paint a bigger one of me.
Right.
And I was like, huh, that I can do. Okay, let's do that. no problem. You know, it wasn't like a, you know, it was like, okay, it was the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like a buddy being like, you know,
Yeah, sure.
Let's paint another one. Let's, you know.
It wasn't a demand.
It
was
wasn't
like,
demanding.
hey.
It's like you need to paint another,
Sure.
paint a bigger one.
Yeah.
And I was like, fair enough. So primed a giant 4x4, you know, piece of wood and started working on it. Did a large scale, the same composition. Although this one was different. Certain pathways and certain things about it were way different. And I was like, what is going on here? It's just different. You know?
But you say different. So these images, as they're coming through you onto the canvas or the wood. What do you call the wood? It's a
panel.
The panel, right?
Yeah.
So the canvas of the panel. They're presenting themselves to you as you're looking at the panel. These elements are just appearing, right? This is essentially how this works.
Yeah, I'll just like I've emptied my mind enough to let the creative energy flow, and as it's flowing, I'm kind of sitting back and looking and kind of like
it's projecting out your third eye, and displaying itself for you to essentially trace. But is that something?
Yeah, I mean, at times it almost does feel like that, you know, and a lot of times it's just. I don't know. It's hard to express, you know, in words what the heck it is.
It's the inner workings of the imagination. They're not. Yeah. We don't have great language for this, but I you know, we just want to ask these questions because it's first of all it's fascinating, and second of all, when we talk about channeling, particularly in this context, you know, this is what we're talking about, and I want people to understand the process of artists channeling, particularly Jeff Sullivan, the artist, the painter. Right. There's nothing spooky about this.
No.
Nothing funky or woo-woo. It's just this is how the artist creates the image. This artist creates some of his works is just becoming present to the point of absence and letting those images flow through you, translated probably by your own imagination in some way, your own creative lens. It acts like a prism, you know, and then flows out onto this canvas and you create.
Yeah,
this is what I gleaned from talking to you.
Yeah, you know,
I'm just trying to verbalize.
Yeah,
it,
no,
you know?
well done, absolutely. You know, and the further I got along with this piece, you know, there were things about it that were way different than the other one, and I brought it to a festival, and I was working on it at the Unifier Music Festival. It was really awesome time, you know, and one of my friends who's a professor, Vood, he was looking at it and scratching his beard and just intently like, he's like, what is that? And I was like, I don't really know. I said, it told me to paint it, so I'm painting it.
It told me to paint it.
Yeah. And he's like, you know,
sit down
and
on my couch, Jeff.
it's like, yeah, it's like a really big warrior looking being, you know, and he's like, I know what that is, you know, and he's like, it's a blue avian, and I was like, what the heck is a blue avian, you know? And he's like, oh, it's an interdimensional alien.
Oh,
and
wow.
They're like a humanoid bird, and they're blue, and they interact with the psyche of some humans as a interconnected channel, you know, to impart information about higher consciousness. And he's like, yeah, they're around, you know, 9 or 10 feet tall, and you know, they have the bird feathers, and you know, and we're looking at it, and I'm like, if that thing was painted to scale, it would be the same height as described.
So this is a type of being that exists in some other dimension.
It's like a hyperdimensional.
The hyperdimensional critter.
Yep.
Critter humanoid.
Yep.
And you've never seen one of these.
No.
You've never heard of these things. No understanding of their existence or potential existence.
Nope.
Right? And you communicated with you, through you, to you, and you created a scale painting of the fucking thing.
And I forgot the nugget of this story was, I should have mentioned this first, was while I was working on it at the festival, my thinking mind came online for a minute, and I was asking it who it was. And I was like, who are you? You know, I'm staring face to face with this thing for months, you know, very intimate. And
it's a dangerous question.
And the painting said, you know exactly who I am. And I was like, oh,
No, I don't.
okay. And that's when my friend Vood came over. Almost.
I don't know you.
Yeah, I think my friend came over like maybe 2 hours after that interaction.
Yeah.
And disclosed this information about the avians. And then maybe a couple hours later, a fellow came over, and he's like, "Oh, you're working on that painting over there?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that one." He's like, "Oh, the blue avian." And
Yeah.
I'm like,
You were the last one to the party.
apparently, so, yeah. So like the last one.
Yeah, you're the only hippie in 2018 that didn't know what a blue avian was.
I live a very sedimentary life for the
If
most
it makes you
part.
feel any better,
Yeah.
I'm learning as well right now.
So the blue avians, just so anyone who doesn't know, and for JC and whoever else, the blue avians are a race of interdimensional beings that some people, particularly in the New Age movement, but also not just the New Age movement, to be clear, a lot of ancient people have stories and legends of these blue avian humanoids coming to Earth in one form or one dimensional vibration or another, interacting and influencing human consciousness all over the world. And this is why a lot of the Native American tribes have totem poles with avian humanoids at the top of them, particularly the Native Americans of the Pacific Northwest. And they seem to be linked to some ancient long lost religion of Lemuria or something like that goes down to Mount Shasta. Connected with legends of the sinking of Lemuria out in the Pacific, connected with legends of the Maori people in New Zealand in the South Pacific. And of course, anyone who knows anything about Egypt knows that a lot of the gods of Egypt were portrayed on temple walls in Egypt as blue avian beings.
Yeah.
So there's a book called Return of the Bird Tribes. That's a fucking great book. I haven't read all of it, but I've read several chapters out of it. And
Yeah.
it talks about this and these beings. It's a channeled work. Return of the Bird Tribes is a channeled work. But these blue avians, I think they're a thing. I think that there's a complexity in understanding how channeling works. There's a complexity in understanding the blue avian phenomenon. I think we have inner worlds and inner beings within us, archetypes of higher dimensional beings and stuff, and I think that these things do exist. I think that they communicate through people, and I think they probably were communicating with the Egyptians. And
oh yeah, oh absolutely.
there's a lot of that there.
And I did once I was given the confirmation, I started. I read a couple books on channeling and certain techniques and things to do, not to do, and started having another routine to work on other than just meditation. Channeling is a whole separate thing. And there's a certain pathway, you enter it the same way, with intentional awareness, and then meditation goes this way, and then channeling goes this way. So there's like a certain door that you enter, that's the channeling space, and then there's just the meditation space. So I learned to differentiate between the two, and I was able to make contact with this same being through intentional channeling, and I have a journal at home with all the information that I received,
Well, I would be severely disappointed in myself if I didn't take this opportunity and where the conversation has steered itself to ask about your self-portrait.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh boy, yeah, origin.
Gotcha in the room.
Origin.
And we have, and whether you
Oh
know
my-
all of this or not,
Yeah, we have a story.
we have a connection here that it's not it's strong, but it's not something that we've ever discussed.
Right.
And you have a painting that it's a self-portrait, correct?
Yes.
So discuss a little bit about that, process, if you don't mind.
No. Oh boy, yeah,
It's beautiful. So we'll slide that one in the video too.
yeah.
Of course, we're gonna have to just
So,
Yeah,
so
just
anybody
like,
listening
what?
to this, if you're listening to this, you're gonna want to go check it out on YouTube.
yeah,
so you can
please
get the
go
video.
watch it.
I think all good stories start with one night in ceremony.
Okay, I like it. That's what my version
It
of
all
where-
started with a handful of mushrooms,
Yeah.
and a cup of ayahuasca.
Yeah, parallel. It's just like
Yeah.
experience.
So one night during ceremony, it was a very deep night, very deep journey. And when I was in this space, the spirit had asked me if I would like to know my origin. And I was Yes, absolutely. I would love that. And it started. It was really strange. It was like almost like highlighting on my growing up and things that worked for me and things that didn't work. And it was like, just reiterating, like, you're human right now, but your spirit, your origin is of a much more ancient breed. And it said that you are one of a feline humanoid race. And it's just translating, that I was this ancient spirit, but inhabiting a human form on this planet right now for good reason,
but of feline origin.
Of feline origin, yeah.
So I wonder if you were like chasing the blue avians around, like Tomcat and Tweety Bird.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. It's hard to say.
Did you get any understanding of the feline to humanoid?
Well, while it was speaking, that portrait presented itself. It kind of like just emerged. It's almost like looking into a crystal ball,
right?
And it was like, and it appeared, and it was just looking right at me, and this energy flowing out of the head center and the mind, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy shit.
Now, when you're seeing this, are you seeing the color palette that you painted in, or are you seeing a version of it? So you're
Yes, I
seeing
saw the
all of
stripes, and there was a purple infusion, and I painted the skin is like my favorite color in the world, and rightfully so, and even when I was looking at it that night, it was a teal
skin,
like,
is that
blue green,
aqua green,
yeah.
I love that color.
And it's just I'm so attracted to it, I can't.
What's
keep
interesting
my eyes
is
off
we were
it.
just in an office yesterday with one of our clients, and they had their walls were that color, but a lighter version of it. And I was like, I was so attracted to those walls, and I just now thought about that same color.
Yeah,
I told our client, I said, I love this color.
It's calming.
But it was very same color. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
ADD.
So when I was receiving this visitation, so to speak, I was like it just felt right, and I went into like how my entire life I've had this incredible reverence for cats, and every relationship I've ever had with any cat ever in my life has been incredible. And the fact that when I was first born, my mom knitted me this picture of this psychedelic paisley cat with my birth date on it and Jeffrey, and it was that stuff that was coming online, the stuff that's been in my mind
been
since
hanging out there.
Yeah, and it was like and it was just aligning all of these like affirmations and these coalescing, just kind of like, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And not scary whatsoever. It felt great. I was like, oh, no wonder I've had such a hard time on this planet. So far it's just been I just never felt comfortable.
Right.
I always felt like an alien, so to speak.
Sure.
I guess,
Sure.
So
I get that.
yeah.
Totally get
So it was
that.
just like an affirmation of like, it's
Yeah,
all
you
right.
are an alien. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. You found a higher layer, higher level, and a mirror reflection of yourself on that higher plane. What's absolutely crazy is through all these different events, there are so many parallels to that painting. Not that I compare the painting that I ultimately ended up with, that I, as an artist, and you can understand this, not happy with.
What's that like?
Right, yeah. But I found myself experiencing on a heavy dose of psychedelics, this divine femininity, and what ultimately ended up what I truly believe being my cat, who I have a very strong bond with at home. While I was at Tribe Night in a ceremonial experience, it was communicating to me through an item that belonged to Adam. I'm with Adam at his house. The whole time I'm under, that 3-4 hour period, 6 hour period, whatever it is, my cat was weird. And the first thing my wife said to me the next day when I was on my way home, hey, I'm on my way home. It was a great night. It's kind of weird. Felt like there was a cat with me. And she goes, oh my God, your cat went crazy. So there's a lot of connective tissue to what my cat was going through, to what I experienced. And the only way that I could really get all of the things that I was feeling and all these realizations and this interconnectivity out was to paint a painting.
Sure.
And so what it ended up being was a green, very, very much your hue
Wow.
of green with purple and purple, almost like octopus tentacles that go out, very similar to yours. Yellow eyes.
Yellow cat eyes.
I've never seen this painting of yours, by the way. Not once. But I was approached by this feline, divine, whether it was my cat or this other.
Interesting.
Well, and just to drill home like how crazy his cat was acting, because it's important to get this across. It's like, so they had just moved into a new house. We had given them a curtain rod from our old house, and that curtain rod hadn't been put up yet, so it was sitting in the floor in the living room. And his cat, which is a very, very cool, normal cat, hops off the couch, leaves his wife, and goes and crouches down and just puts her face
Just buried her face.
right up against that curtain rod. Wow. Right, which is my curtain rod. He's with me, and this cat does it for like 4 hours, and his wife keeps going to pick
That's
her up.
bizarre.
And she's like, his cat's all tensed up, like she's got rigor mortis or something, and she puts her on the couch, and the cat hops off the couch and runs straight back to the curtain rod.
Wow.
And his wife's like, "Fucking, do we need to take her to the vet? Like what's going on?" It was completely bizarre. Meanwhile, he's with me, and he's seeing these feline eyes, and feeling the presence of this feline entity.
Wow.
It was and then he gets in the car and tells his wife, "Oh, it was really cool, but I kept feeling this cat." And
That's bizarre.
Yeah. It was in hindsight of me telling her about my experience with the feline that she goes, "I can't believe you just said that. You're never going to believe what happened to your cat." Because she couldn't wait to tell me. She could not wait. And what ended up happening was we had cross-pollinated these two stories to the understanding of, I really have no doubt it was my cat. It was and we've beat our heads against the wall as to what that means. And in the process of this, he goes, "Well, have you ever seen Jeff's self-portrait?" I was like, no, let me check that out. And then I open it up and I go, "Oh my God, I just made he didn't know I'd painted. The painting already existed before he had told me about the painting." This is 3 weeks after this had happened, where we're still digesting this process.
Yeah.
But I feel in my heart of hearts that whatever you experienced in your divine feline self, that I had also in a strange way interacted in that same space or connected with that version of myself on whatever layer.
How bizarre
of
is that?
consciousness.
That is, you can't make this stuff up.
To the point, our paintings are drastically different, but the fucking colors, the details, the purple and the use that you use it, and then the way that I used it, the yellow eyes, the green, it's you cannot deny that there is and I like to think, and I talk about that if you go into Buddhism, that 8th layer of consciousness, that shared consciousness, we both have existed and operated there, and you've come back and done what you've done, and I just so happen to be lucky.
Wow.
I don't do this all the time when I have a psychedelic experience, but it was bizarre, man. It's a very real thing and a heavy thing that I walk around with, seeing that piece and then knowing the story behind it, and then get to hearing it from the horse's mouth, and then my version of it. There's an interconnectivity to all human consciousness.
Oh, definitely.
And it's so funny that for the longest, Adam's known you very, intimately and closely, and you guys are friends, and we haven't actually been in the room.
Right.
But through the triangulation of that, he's going, you guys are so similar. You guys are the same person.
Yeah, yeah.
And I go, there's no way. We're so very different or whatever, but it bleeds into that 8th layer, that drip consciousness, collective consciousness, because there is simply nobody who could ever see those two paintings, hear this story, and not go, there's no correlation. I don't see it. You guys are. You guys are drawing.
It's fascinating,
lines.
the similarities. When I showed him that picture that you did, the origin picture, and then his eyes got big as saucers, and he's like, "Dude, come look at this fucking painting I did. And then I like to shit myself. It was amazing. But there is, we talk about this gravity that you create whenever you're living in truth and you're pursuing your highest purpose, and you begin to create this gravity where you start to collect or bring into your orbit other entities, beings like yourself, through this vibrational attraction that goes on, right? This harmonic resonance we send out into the universe, and we start to attract these people. And I believe that we all, we're not just attracted in the physical, in the sense that, like, you're now here, right? You're now here. We're all here physically, but you two having never met, we're still connected through this web in a very close proximity through your vibrational, maybe through us being so close, or whatever it is.
Or maybe we knew each other before.
Or maybe you knew I tend to think that we're rebuilding a tribe from long, long ago, and it's something we've all talked about together. Is if you're anyone listening to this in the audience or watching this is like, has anyone else out there been living a life for the last, let's just say, few years, maybe longer, right? But let's say 2, 3, 4, 5 years, where you've just been getting closer and closer to your higher purpose and doing more and more of what you're meant to be doing, and generating a life for yourself, transmuting a life for yourself out of the one that was, and you find yourself collecting and connecting with more and more people like you, and then more synchronicities start happening,
gaining so much momentum.
It's a momentum thing. The universe conspires in your favor when you're doing shit the way you should be,
right?
And we've just been inundated with synchronicities. Our whole tribe. All three of us and our families and our circle of friends outside of that, which, we may not have time to get into all that right now, but the whole crazy web of how things have connected all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eventually it hits you over the head so much you can't go, that was a great coinky-dink. Coincidence doesn't exist. Like you can no longer go, what a blessing of a coincidence.
Yeah.
No, you go, that's the universe.
I think,
the causal connecting principle.
A causal connecting principles. That's it. I think it's easy to call something a coincidence when it seems to happen in a vacuum on its own, And if maybe you have just one momentary flare-up of living your best life, living your higher purpose, living in truth, you may get a synchronicity, a standalone synchronicity, and it's going to, for all intents and purposes, it's going to look like a coincidence.
Sure.
Because it's not in a chain. It's just kind of a standalone wink from the universe. Like, hey, pay attention. Do more of that thing you're doing, or maybe it's telling you, hey, stop doing that thing you're doing,
Yep.
But when I think what I'm finding from all the people that I talk to from around the world that are living this sort of life is like, whenever you are, really living in that higher purpose, you'll find that those things start chaining themselves together. Your synchronicities will just start piling up, piling up.
And then they get overwhelming to the point where you can ignore them. Or just they become commonplace, and then you kind of
it's like walking past the flowers in your garden out front. Yeah,
you can literally have so many things beating over your head that you lose your sense of, oh, these are signs, because these just happen to me all the time. But it's in those moments where they're happening as to where you.
God, what a place to be grateful for in your life. If your synchronicities are just beating you over the head like rain in a thunderstorm.
Yeah, and they will, and they
what a
can,
reason to be thankful.
But you can fuck that up.
Yeah.
Because I have. I mean, you can fuck that up. You can really be on a path. And it's all beating you over the head, and you just go, I'm doing everything right. And then in that moment, you start doing it all wrong.
Yeah,
it's very
fuck it
possible.
all off.
Yeah, it doesn't take as much discipline as I think people think when they look. It looks daunting to start the practice of becoming more conscious and becoming more aware, and being able to channel and create like art like Jeff does. Even to me, who sits here and listens to him talk and gets to have the conversations, go, I've thought that before. It's very daunting or whatever. But then you meet the guy, you hear him talk, you hear him speak, and you go, oh, he's just living in truth.
Yeah.
He's just walking the walk.
That's it.
It doesn't seem too daunting.
Yep.
And then you see the fruit picked from that tree, and you see all the things created. But yeah, you can get beaten over the head with it so much that you think you got it figured out, but maybe you're getting beaten over the head with it because you got one more page to turn, one more thing to do.
So let's start reeling this in. Let's take a few minutes to sort of to circle the wagons.
Yeah.
Bring this back around, and sort of and just package this wonderful conversation up, and then we'll wrap it up for today, and we're going to do this again tomorrow.
Yes.
So anyone listening on the Instagram Live, anyone watching on YouTube after the fact, anyone listening on any other podcast platform later, there's going to be a second part to this, maybe part 3. We'll let you know in the next part. But so we hit on a few things here. So the beauty and the importance of art as an expression of consciousness, and to be used to uplift consciousness, and to be aware of the impact of art on consciousness. The importance of mindfulness in creating that space to let the creativity flow.
Absolutely.
Understanding what it means to be so present that you become absent in the process of creation. How to create a mindset, or to move yourself into a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Gratitude instead of fear. And how to live in truth and follow your higher calling so that you create a gravity in which people and things and occasions and opportunities and synchronicities start to slide and vibrate into your orbit. And then shit starts just getting better and better from there. Yep. That's kind of what it's about. What do you guys think?
That's beautifully put.
Yeah.
Beautifully
absolutely.
put.
Is that what we're doing here? Is that what this is? That's kind of the nutshell of this conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, we touched on so many things, and it's such a dense or deep topic of discussion. You know, there's a lot to go into.
It's beautiful.
And I think it's all important. It's all relative, and it could be utilized for many different reasons. You know.
Well, I'm thankful for these conversations.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
We've been
tremendous.
We've been looking forward to this for a long time.
I know.
Yeah. I was inundated and overwhelmed with questions to ask, and so thankful that you are so present and mindful and articulate in the way that you are, that I've had these questions in my back pocket, and you could have been like, I don't know, just kind of comes to me. So it's a beautiful thing.
It's just what I do.
To have these conversations. You'd be so self-aware in the process and the understanding that you have, and it only furthers me in my journey and the journey that we're all taking inward to grow ourselves outward to be a better person. I appreciate every word and the time, and I literally can't wait for part 2 today.
Oh no, thank both of you, for this, because
you're so welcome.
What a tremendously important and loving connection that we have, you know, and that we're using this platform for self-expression, and in the hopes that by us communicating our stories, flowers further development of consciousness and creativity and expression to many, many more
That's
people,
it, man.
you know, and the pollination and germination of the higher realms and higher, more present in the awareness,
Yeah, that's it, man. Well, that's what we're here to do, is to help uplift, inspire, enlighten, entertain. It's Wayfinder for a reason.
Yeah.
This is our journey in real time, trying to find our way through shit, and we're bringing everybody along for that journey, and we're thankful that you're part of the tribe, and that you're in our path, that you're in our lives, and I think that everybody's lives could be enriched by checking out your art and making it a part of your life. Go own a piece of Jeff's art. I mean, you can get that. Go to his Instagram at Jeff Sullivan Art. You can go to is it JeffSullivanArt.com?
Yes.
Yep, JeffSullivanArt.com. Go buy some of his art, man. You can get prints on there for next to nothing. I mean, I think that everybody should have some in their house.
Absolutely beautiful prints.
Yeah.
You've got one hanging on your wall, and you cannot walk past it without feeling the energy of it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, everybody comes into my house, sees that print, and they're just like, what the fuck is this? It's stunning. So, guys, go to JeffSullivanArt.com. Go to @JeffSullivanArt on Instagram. Other platforms? Is that the two big ones?
Yeah.
Let's just do that. It's easy.
Yeah.
Let's keep it simple for everybody.
Yep.
Jeff Sullivan.
Start there, work your way out.
Yeah, work your way out.
Yep.
And you can really follow him on Instagram and see all the posts that he makes. You know, a lot of his art and just thoughts and stuff like that. So it's really cool to do. And we appreciate you guys for that. Make sure that you like and share and subscribe and all that stuff on all of our platforms, or not all of them, but whatever you want, whatever it is that you want to listen to. If it's iTunes or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or whatever. Of course, YouTube, you're going to get the videos. iTunes and stuff, you get great audio still. And we also, you can go to wayfinderpodcast.com and get access to all of the platforms in one place, including the Patreon. And we hope that you guys are impacted and, you know, at some point in such a way that you feel divinely driven to help donate to support the podcast. You can get in there for like $3 a month and help support this podcast. And you know, we brought Jeff down here from Connecticut, right? This is something that you guys can help support, so that we can bring more wonderful thinkers, artists, visionaries, you know, into the studio, so that we can give you guys the best kind of content possible. So let's go to wayfinderpodcast.com and go support us on the Patreon. Also, comments and ratings on particularly like iTunes.
Yeah.
Really love those.
Even if it's loved it, great job.
Yeah.
Hated it, terrible. Leave the comment.
Well, yeah, leave it. Yeah, we don't care if you know. I mean, if
let us know.
Let us know. We
can take it. We can
take it, and it bumps us up on the algorithm, so that we get more exposure, so that we can get this conversation and other ones like it to more people. So if you feel like you've been impacted in some positive way, which is ultimately the goal here, then obviously, you know, you should want to share that with as many people as possible. So
absolutely,
go rate this on iTunes. Give us 5 stars. Give us a brief summary of why you liked it, and we will give you a shout out. Also, questions. If you guys have any questions you want us to ask, including anyone on Instagram Live that sees this, if you got a question you want to ask Jeff for tomorrow, ask away, and we will send that to Jeff. Well, send it to me. Send it to send it to me. DM it to me. Jeff won't fucking send it to me, and then we'll ask him, and then we'll read your questions here. All your feedback is appreciated. So that's all we got for today, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. May the light be upon you. May peace be within you, and may you be a sun on the paths of all men. God bless you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Peace.